G'day folks, ML350 2025 first video. A little bit late on posting a video for this year so far, but we're doing a work today on the 166 ML350 BLUETEC. We've got a nice little oil leak, and little probably isn't the word to represent it, it's quite a major one. So we're going to fix that today, and I'm going to show you the process because it is a common issue on the OM642 engines where we have a leaking oil cooler. And the fun part about the oil cooler on this engine is it's located in the V, in the valley of the V6 turbo diesel. So just like our lovely V12 here had a broken oil seal, was it oil? Yeah, it was an oil seal from memory, in the V as well. That took me 3 months to fix, pulling the engine out and everything. This isn't as bad, thankfully. So let's pull the V12 out and get the ML inside. If you haven't watched my videos before, team, and you just want to get straight into it, skip this part. I just add this for information for existing subscribers. If you haven't seen already, the 4-part series of the E55 to 11, we rebuilt the engine, sort of, did the timing and everything last year. It's running really well. It's not leaking any oil, which is perfect. I thought I still had a bit of an oil leak, but she's running really well, and everything looks good. I'm just still cash strapped at the moment. I'd love to get the wheels redone, all new brakes, ceramic coated, detailed, but I just can't afford that right at this moment. V12 still running really well. Serviced it recently. It's had the odd time, and it's only 2 times I've counted it where it's blown a bit of blue smoke out after running it for a short period. But it's been flawless. There's been no smoke, no issues, no nothing. It runs mint. And I've just had to put a new flippin' windscreen in it because a lovely truck threw a big stone on it. So this car's had 2 windscreens now worth $3,000, as well as the rear windscreen worth $5,000, which is flippin' excellent, but at least I didn't have to pay for it, so that's good. So, runs well. It actually does have a squeaky pulley. You might be able to hear it on the camera. No, maybe not. You probably can't. But I'm trying to figure out where it's from. It's just one of the pulleys at the front is squeaking and it's driving me nuts. Only when you turn it on. Otherwise it's fine. It goes away after a few minutes. But you can probably hear that. Anyway, team, let's get this out of the way and get the ML in so we can start pulling it apart. So team, the car's in the garage. I'm just getting my hoist fixed. It's got a leaking hydraulic, so I can't really use it over a certain height, but I don't need it for this job. We don't need it for this job, so if you're doing this yourself, don't worry about it. You're working on the top basically. So just pinch these off here. And then this one here is a bit of a bastard. I really don't like how they built or sort of designed this. But usually what I do is I push up inside. So push up with your finger on the top, and you can then, I can do it with 2 hands, but not with 1 hand. You can then lever this off these clips, and that way you're not going to scratch up the plastic using screwdrivers and stuff. So we'll do that. And then your top pops just straight off. Just be relatively gentle though, so you don't break anything. And that'll give us the beast underneath. One cool thing, team, this here is a brand new, a low kilometer, 20,000 kilometer dashboard for the W210 E55. It's literally like brand new. So that's a job for later on and a video for later on, but anyway. So on my computer here we've got WIS open, which is Mercedes workshop system. So you can see the instructions. So we've got to basically, it's only a 5-step process, guys. It's super easy. Jokes. It's not super easy. We basically have to get all this shit off, literally all of it, to get down into the valley where the oil cooler is, which will be at the bottom down here underneath all of the stuff, including the turbocharger. And on the 166, and I imagine some of the other cars as well, we've got this large cowling plastic for the windscreen. I'm picking that's going to have to probably come out as well, because we need to be able to get back down here to take off heat shields and pull the turbo out, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be fun. So our first job, interesting, okay. First job, remove mixing chamber, remove intake port, shut off actuator motor. So let's look through this team. We've installed mixing chamber. I actually don't even know what that is. Anyway, let me crack into it and I'll give you an update shortly and start pulling things apart. My team have made some progress, so intakes are off. There's just the little clips you saw me clip off on the sides here. So these ones here, so when they're done up, it's going to be pushed back like that. And you basically want to flip it and then unlock it like that, right? There's also a little hole here where the crankcase ventilation comes through. So just pull that out gently with that seal there. Ideally just cover up your turbos and things like that, just to make sure no debris gets in there by chance. Just make sure your engine's not too hot though as well, because you don't want to catch fire. This one's still quite hot. And then yeah, we're just pulling little bits off. So you just clip these here, pull it back, and it pops off. Again, be gentle, make sure you unhook these here, because these lines are solid plastic, so if you do jerk them, you will break them or fatigue them really badly. And then hoses like this, I just use a bit of WD-40, or in this case some silicone spray, just to loosen them. And then I have my favourite tool out of all tools, and this one's actually not the main one, the other one I've lost, but these little pick tools here just let you get a little bit of leverage to just gently loosen up and pull these off without tearing or ripping them. You just saw me take that off there, 2 screws, one there, and oh, was it 2 there? No, one up there as well. Yep. So that's off. So this is apparently what we're taking out here. This, I believe this piece here is to do with the oil exchange system. And these lines go under the engine back into the oil cooler. I think, I might be wrong, because again, I'm not totally familiar with this engine yet. And then you've just got some of these electrical connectors, and again, just gentle with them. So when they're clipped in, these little tabs are pressed in. So what I do again is I grab a pick tool and I insert it gently in between and lever this out. And then when you lever this grey piece out, then you've got the leverage to push it down and pull it off. So don't pull them until you've done that. Same with this here. So what I do is I just go like that. See? You can never pull it off like that, so don't try. And you can sort of not really easily pull these out without using a pick. I just like to use a pick. Cool. So that's off. Our charge air pipe's off. Again, a little screw there, and a little screw that hooks onto the top here. Yep. And then you pull it off the snout here, off this inlet. Pull it off and lever it out. And then this one here hooks on via this little screw here, which is that. And down the bottom here, there's one on the side. So just there, it's like a side mounted screw. Those two get that off, and then that'll let you pull that charge pipe out. Cool, so let's continue. Right team, so you just saw me pull out this air chamber mixer unit apparently. Apparently that's what it's called. So it fits into the engine obviously like this. And basically we have the charge air come through this. So there's a throttle body here. As you can see, there's the butterfly flap in there. And this part here, so if we look on the back here, there's these two screws that I took out. They actually don't need to come out. I thought they didn't, so I'll just put those back in quickly. So don't worry about those, but you've got basically up the top here, 1, 2, 3, so they're just in here, 1, 2, 3. And then you've got that bottom piece, which is here. I don't know if you need to remove it, but I did remove it just for the sake of it. So it's this little EGR, I believe this is. Yeah, I'm pretty dead set sure this is the EGR. And that plugs into the bottom of that. There is another little piece that inserts into there though, so do not forget that when you reinstall it. So I'll give that a little bit of a clean up, just to get all the main gunk out of it. And then on the top here, you've got the bolt here that this bracket holds on to. And you've also got, what was it? Yeah, that was most of it. You saw me take the main radiator hose out. So I pulled that out and probably spilt half a litre, but got most of it drained into a tank. So we'll put new coolant in. So just try and drain it from the radiator side rather than up the top here, so you don't spill it all over the accessory belts and things. And yeah, so that's pretty good. I'll probably leave these little units here in place, and yeah, there's still a lot to come out. But that's fine. And then down here I can see there's it's so dirty. So there's our two little pipes where we came off before, and then yeah, as I say, it mounts. Oh, I don't like that hose, it looks a bit dirty. I might replace that, although it might be alright. Just give it a bit of a clean up. Best just to spend some time tinkering things to tidy up if you can. Now, you just heard me say those two screws shouldn't come out. They actually should, as you can see here. 1, 2, there's where they actually screw to on that bracket. So those ones there, actually you do need to remove those, as we can see. But yeah, that's cool. Now this is a good time also to replace your accessory belt if you haven't already. I should have actually ordered a new one, but my existing one, while it's dirty, it's not cracking. And it doesn't have real obvious fatiguing, so I'll leave it for now and I'll replace it next service. But yeah, from here on we're just, I think, working our way back through the fuel filter, these little bits and pieces, and then we can finally take the intake manifold out, and I believe we also have to take one of the fuel rails out as well. So it's not a little job. Cool, let's continue. Right, so from what I can tell, our next thing to do is to basically get to the back of the turbo to start pulling that out. And then we'll actually come this way instead and take the fuel filter out and things before we pull the last bit out. So, big mish team. What we're going to need to do is remove the bulkhead, which I believe is what they're referring to as this piece here. So I've already removed the caps earlier, just to give myself some time for it to soak, and just put a bit of what do you call it? Put a little bit of our old friend, you know, this stuff, penetrating oil on those bolts. So I'll crack those off now. Just be careful that you don't let any metal pieces hit your windscreen and crack it. And then we'll start disassembling the rest of it. But it's all pretty basic from memory. It's all just sort of held in by these rubber bits here. So it's not too hard to do. Just sort of find your way around. That's what I usually do. There wasn't even really instructions on how to do it. So yeah, see, so we want to get back here and take this piece out. if we can, so that'll involve us taking all this out, but it shouldn't take too long. So let's crack at it and I'll let you know how to do it in detail. So team, we've taken off the cowling and the windscreen wiper motor. As you see, the hardest part, well, aside from pulling out that center section there just at the end of that video, which mounts over the top here, it was just getting those wiper blade off the bolts. So again, the penetrating oil, and then I was just using a hammer and one of my 3/8 extensions there, just to bang on the blade as it sits around there, and then it just comes off basically, and then you can pop it straight out and everything else comes out nice and easily, which is good. So that's all out now, which is nice. Our turbocharger, I've just taken off the heat shield, which was just 3 bolts. That's easy. Now we're down to removing the turbo itself. To be honest, I'm not sure how we get this out. I don't know whether we take off these bolts here, or what does it say on this? Remove oxygen sensor from uploader, remove exhaust recirculation actuator, right cylinder head cover, remove heat protection. Exhaust pipe from exhaust gas turbocharger and lay outside the working area. So basically it's here, team. Oh yeah, so if we look at it here, this is the back side of the turbo from what I can see. We obviously want to disconnect it from that clamp there. I think, I might be wrong, I think that's what it is. And then that's the 3 bolts along the back there. Because everything else below it, yeah, down there is is it to do with the EGR or something? I'm not sure. But yeah, so we need to crack those 3 off. I'm picking 1, 2, it's just 2? Oh no, 3 down the back there. There's 1 right at the bottom, which is going to be fun to get off. And then I think it's just, yeah, these other mounting bolts here and the oil line, and then we can lift it off because the turbo sits on a bracket, on a mounting bracket, so we'll be able to get that out. Yeah, so let's crack at it. Right team, so turbo is out. So we've got a few things here. We've got these like downpipe sort of things from the exhaust side, and then we have our bracket that also has the oil and I believe oil and coolant feeds for the turbo. And now we're basically just on to removing the fuel filter here and so forth. So the trickiest part probably is getting these back bolts off. It's frankly a bitch of a job getting them off. So you've got, if I show you the turbo unit, you've got, and just even getting this out's quite tricky as well. So this, if you're looking at this way, this is the turbo facing the correct way upwards. So this is the bottom side here. Here's where those lines are, and there's the gasket. So I've got a new gasket. That's temperature sensor there. There's our control unit for the actuator of the turbocharger. There's also a coolant line there with an O-ring that I don't even know if I have. I need to check the stock for that, but make sure you order that. The dealer didn't give me that part, which is a bit annoying. And there's our little rear flanges. So there is a few bolts you've got to remove. You've got to remove those three, and also 3 on that large outlet from the exhaust side of the turbocharger. Plus, you've got to also remove this little sort of like PCV, or is it PCV or is it EGR related? I'm not actually sure, but this little bracket here and this clamp and all of these bolts. So basically you're dealing with about 12 bolts in total. All of them are in a very hard to reach area at the back here. And on a car like the 166, it's a SUV, so I've got to flip and lean in, cutting my guts open on all this bloody bodywork and connectors and shit, so it's not a fun job to get that back in. If you can take the O2 sensor off, take it off. It just helps it just makes it a little bit easier to get things in the back here, but if you can't, that's fine as well. I just wanted to mention one more thing, which is this coolant feed hose here. Now just be careful you don't drop anything inside these oil feed holes, because you don't want them blocking anything in the turbocharger, because you'll blow it pretty quick. So I might actually just grab the vacuum quickly and vac around here, just suck any stuff out, because there's some dirt in there. But you're going to have to sort of wiggle the whole turbo unit around a little bit just to get that O-ring and seal out. It's always a pain with those hot turbocharged coolant feed lines. They always sort of get like stuck in there. So again, penetrating oil and a good bit of movement will get it out, and then you can sort of like tip the turbo and pull it out. Not easy, but anyway, let's continue. So what we're going to do now is start to disassemble this this feed here, this harness feed, as well as these fuel lines as well, and this fuel filter unit. And then yeah, we're making some progress. And it also looks like we're going to have to remove this air filter on this side, which shouldn't be too hard. It's probably only got a few bolts in, but yeah, we'll do that as well. Let's continue. Cool. Right, so team, so we've got the wiring harness majority moved out of the way. It's taken about an hour and a half. I think when we put it back together it'll be a lot easier. It's just sort of figuring out where to pull things apart. While I've got the computer, it still doesn't really give you the best detail on how to do those things, so you've just got to get creative. So it's a literal mess. It's such a complicated engine. You've got your glow plugs, I believe, there. You've got these weird lines that have diesel in them, as well as your high pressure fuel lines. So I don't know what the little, these ones here are. Apparently it's an oil feed line or something, but I don't know if that's correct. But that's what it says in WIS. But yeah, so we've unhooked all the connectors, and we've basically bought this big harness piece here. We've sort of pulled it over here and turned it over here. While you're there, don't forget to disconnect this harness as well. I'll probably do it off camera. And there's also, I believe, a water line I've got to disconnect as well still. We haven't had to undo the fuel rail, so that's good. So the fuel rail, apart from this feed, I believe the high pressure feed from the pump itself, which needs a cap on it. Aside from that, needing to be sussed. Where am I? Not really the right sizes, but it's all right. So sorry, let's continue. So, great. Yeah, so undo that line, and then that basically gives us room to then lift this solid metal rail up as well here, because by default it's down here and it's plugged into that line and plugged into this line. So that goes into there, okay? And you can obviously use a little tool to undo those crimps, those little clips. They're usually one-time use, but if you do have this tool, you can reuse them. I like to reuse them just because it's a nice looking factory, and they work fine. The clamps are fine. So you get a tool like this. This is what's used for those supposed sort of one-time use clamps there. Otherwise, just pull them off and use a standard sort of Jubilee clip with a screwdriver. But anyway, yes, yeah, so then I've been able to lift that up, pull this back over this sort of notch here, move the fuel filter hoses, which is this one and this one, back, because the fuel filter sits there. Then we've got the swirl flat motor, which I don't believe I'll remove just yet. I think I'll leave that in place until we've pulled, I don't know, I think we can pull the whole thing out together in one piece. We just want to be careful, which, yeah, I think we will do actually. So just be careful you don't sort of split and break this swirl flat motor here. So it's pretty much good to start undoing the screws, and I believe it's literally just a matter of these ones here, all the ones along the top here, and also on your coolant, on your thermostat, that one there. So it's a long bolt, the last one I pulled out. Oh, that's what that was. Just, there's lots of little eyelets to lift the engine with, which I've removed. Yeah, that's it. I forgot where that screw was. Cool. Perfect. So there's actually a lot of shit that comes off to get to this. So my advice is, to be honest, if you're doing this job, I would replace the swirl flat motor, maybe even the intake manifold. I didn't realize until I've dug into this how much you should probably be replacing preventatively, so you don't have to do this again, because this is a bastard of a job. I'd hate to have to do this again in the next year or so. So in my opinion, invest your money and do everything while you're in here. Do your intake manifold, probably, like this has done 140,000 miles now, or 200,000 Ks. You know, do that, do your oil cooler, even maybe replace the oil cooler fully, replace your swirl flat motor, and just replace all of the seals. Like, I don't have new seals here for some of these things. Like when I do my other cars, I always do pretty much every seal there is, but I didn't realize it was such a pull apart job. If I did, I would have bought a lot more, including belts and idlers and all that stuff. But again, I don't really have a big budget at the moment to spare, so I'm doing it on the cheap with still genuine and OEM parts. But yeah, so let's just undo these screws here, bag them, and see if we can pull this sucker out in one whole piece. Right team, so we've got the intakes and all that jazz out. And yeah, so there's this thing here which I don't even know what it is. It's got soot in it. I wouldn't even have a clue, to be honest. Is it some sort of heat? Well, it's definitely a heat exchanger. I just don't know what. Is it like an oil heat exchanger or a... Maybe that's what it is. For some reason I thought this was the oil cooler. And then the oil cooler itself's obviously there, so we can pull that out easily enough. I'm just mindful of just giving it a quick clean, just making sure nothing goes down those holes at the back, and even on these ones here. But if you look how effing dirty it is, it's absolutely filthy. This whole system is just disgusting. I really don't know how this engine operates. Like it runs, like in my opinion, this car runs really well, and it's just like filthy, like the worst gunk I've ever seen. And it's all like creamy and sticky and oily. It's literally sludge, you know. That's exactly what it is. Like, look at it. So I'm just gonna have a little look around. Originally I wasn't even bother. I was like, I'll just leave it, but I wouldn't mind just cleaning this if we can, because it's disgusting. It's absolutely, and it's just like there's layers of it. So I'm just going to see what chemical we can use on it, just to, I don't want it to look mint, but it just to clean it a little bit, even just so it has a bit of a better run. I do wonder if this is leaking as well, but I don't think it is. It wouldn't make sense for it to leak. It must be from the oil cooler below, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm talking too much. But anyway, let's start cleaning things up, and I'll just see if there's anything I can do. When I was removing it, team, you've got to remember there's still coolant in the intake manifold, so just be careful, because when I was pulling it up, coolant was spilling out into the valley here, which isn't good, because some did end up in this port here, which I ended up just getting a bit of compressed air. Luckily the valve was closed, so I just got some compressed air and blasted it out, so it'll be fine. But just try and make sure you don't do anything too fast where you forget that, you know, water's pissing into these ports here, because you don't want to get water in the cylinders. Yeah, I've got some of this throttle body cleaner. I might give that a try, but even just something minor, will give it a crack. Right team, so we've cleaned up the mounting plate where the oil cooler sits. Just want to make sure, you want to make sure that that's clean and there's no sort of dirt or debris in amongst the edges where the cooler mounts, because if it can't seat properly and you've got bits of carbon or just dust and dirt there, it's not going to seal properly back onto the bottom of the V-belly. So what we want to do is thankfully we've got the old seals, sort of thankfully, not thankfully. So that's the old seals there, and then we've got our brand new purple ones, which you should all have. I do just want to wipe those with a bit of brake cleaner. Our new seals are here. I'm just going to chuck a little bit of Vaseline on them. You don't have to, but I just like to do that with pretty much every seal on an engine, following what Tassos does. He's a Mercedes expert in maintenance. He uses a lot of Vaseline. Yeah, so we'll put those in, and then we're going to resit it back in the engine there. We're just going to make sure that these seals don't pop out or anything when we go and put it back in. Another thing I wanted to do was just to double check those seals aren't like crusty and broken, so that's good. I just want to check that this is flat, so there's no like bowing of the oil cooler. It's aluminium, so, and it's got obviously a number of bolts around it, so it's going to seal properly, which is good. But you just want to make sure it's clearly not distorted, which there's no reason for it to be, but I'd rather just double check that and be sure. Cool. So we're going to then reinstall this thing, and I'll let you know right now what the torque for that cooler is. So if we go back out, so the heat exchanger to the crankshaft is housing is 12 Newton meters of torque. Cool. So that there is going to be bolted down to 12 Newton meters. Install in reverse order, remove heat exchanger. Yeah, I love how this page is literally like, you know, like 5 steps, but like this first step is literally like 6 hours of work. Yeah, cool. So we'll do that now, team, get that installed, and then I'm just going to continue to decrust and remove all the gunk out of these. So I've already cleaned them up a bit, and you can see they're not perfect. I'm not looking for a perfect job though, but you can see the edges clearly. Whereas if we look at even this one here, like look at that, look how much gunk's on these fucking things, they're filthy. That one's not as bad, that one's not as bad, but they're just absolutely disgusting. So we're just going to keep cleaning these up, and then we'll get them ready to reinstall again. I've ordered a new O-ring here. I'd like to just replace the O-ring. I'd even like to replace the swivel flap system, but I'm not worrying about it right at this moment. What I will do is disconnect it though and just clean that as well. Try and get the oil off of this linkage, and maybe just put even some of our silicone plastic protectant on it. Probably won't do much, but it's better than having oil on it. That's just going to wear it out quicker over time. Cool, let's continue. Right team, so a bit of cleaning. They're not perfect, but they're a lot better than they were. I'm just going to finally blow a bit of compressed air through there and then through the inlet port, just to make sure there's nothing loose in there. Same here. There's a lot of gunk in these cylinders, so I'm gonna just give it a quick vac and just check they're fully empty before I put the bank 2 port on with the EGR exchanger below it, and then I'll put the other one on. And we've got new gaskets, obviously. We'll fit those on ready to go. And what I will do is I'll just also make sure that I need to finish that bank 1 intake manifold, and also just do the same here, just clean this up. Again, I've just used just a simple pick tool like this to carefully sort of cut around the edges and pull out gunk and wipe it into a towel. But yeah, just be careful you don't sort of break off any too bigger pieces that you can't pull out. I've got my new gasket there on the bottom there ready to go. I've inserted that and I've torqued all that down to 12 Newton meters, so it's good. It's obviously not pretty, but this is a daily car. I don't give a toss about making it look mint, unlike the M113K. So yeah, we're halfway. Let's start putting it back together. Right team, so we've got the charge E distributors, or the intake manifolds you could say, back on the car. Just need to torque them down. We're torquing them to 18 Newton meters. So starting from the middle, working our way out, we've got our new gasket in. We've ensured we have put the little coupling between the two of them in place, put a bit of Vaseline on them. Then also made sure the linkages for the swirl flaps, the actuator, are clipped in. They're a fucking nuisance because they snap off. They're basically built to break into 2 pieces. So when you're installing them, take all the screws off the swirl flap actuator so it's loose, and it just gives you more room to move and basically insert the little ball joints into the arms that control each bank swirl flap set. Otherwise you drop, they snap in half and the 2 plastic pieces fall into the V and you've got to F around trying to figure it out. So yeah, so torquing those up, then there's a hose on the back behind the EGR valve, which this piece here I've learned is the EGR valve. There's a pipe on the back of that where coolant flows. I'm going to put the clamp on that. I'm going to connect the electrical harness back onto it. And then we are ready to start reconnecting our bank 2 or right bank fuel lines, so we can start putting that back together. But as we can see, it's an absolute tip working on this motor. Just everything's fucking dirty and black and oily and sludgy, and it's just disgusting. I really do not enjoy this job. So if you're already on the fence about doing it, my advice is, if you've got the money, pay someone to do it. It's a bastard. Fortunately, I don't have the money to pay someone to do it, so I'm doing it myself. And it's hopefully good YouTube content. I know it's not as detailed as some other videos, but I'm just trying to give you little tips here and there where I can. So let's put those to 18 and get that hose at the back hooked up again, and away we go. Right team, so here's our new gasket for the turbocharger. So this goes on the base, which mounts to the top plate. So again, just be careful you don't get any little bits of plastic or anything, or any sort of dirt into these ports here, because the tolerances will be very small in terms of clearances for certain things, so we don't want dust scratching up bearings and things. But yeah, that's the new gaskets, part number there. I've taken this little O-ring off here for the coolant line, and I've just cleaned it with some cleaner and Vaselined it again and reinstalled it. I'd recommend replacing it, but I wasn't able to do that in this case. I don't have the part number because the dealer didn't give it to me, so clearly it mustn't be that much of a problem, although any O-ring I always recommend you replace. So that goes in that sucker there. This is all torqued back down to 20 newton meters. There's 4 bolts down here. Our heads are on, our rails back in with our, wait, that's weird. Oh, no, that's right. With that there, fuel filter goes in here. There's our lines with our one-use adapters. Our rail there, all the nuts have checked, they're all tight, all tight. Connectors back on. Put this foam piece back in, put the intake box back in. So we're pretty good really. We're gonna chuck the turbo back in now, and this is the worst part of the job in my opinion, doing these flipping bolts back up. So it's gonna be flipping fun. Yeah, that's where my arms get all cut to pieces and things, but anyway, so we'll get that put on. I've cleaned a bit of the harness up. It's still a flippin' mess, like it's not tidy at all, team, but I don't care, it's just a daily, and I don't have time at the moment. I've got better things to be doing than doing this job, but anyway, yeah, so I'll probably put the right hand or bank 2 intake back in towards the end. I just want to get the turbocharger in first, and then yeah, I'll reassemble this the foam covers and bits and bobs like that, but I really want to get this bloody turbo back in. As you can see here, the ports for the air intake, they're all there. I've got new seals coming. Like that seal's flat as, so I'm going to replace that. And there's a seal on that side there, the little orange one you can see there, team. So replacing all those. Yeah, EGR is a little bit filthy. But yeah, what do you do? I think that's pretty good. Our vac system up here. Yeah, there's still lots of shit everywhere. It's such a complicated engine. It's probably the most complicated engine I've worked on. The M157's probably a bit more of a pain in terms of not much room, but then that was in the GLE 166, I think it was, X166, GLE 63S. Not much room at the front, whereas this has room, but on the top everything's just so squashed together, it's a bastard. So yeah, EGR as well, it's quite dirty, so I'm going to spray some stuff in there and try and clean it up. Like, it's just like filthy. It's not bad though, it's it could be worse, so that I'm glad about that. Yeah, I'll probably chuck a bit of oven cleaner or throttle body cleaner in this as well and give that a clean before we reinstall it, but that goes on towards the end, so that's not too bad. Sweet. Right team, so the turbo's in, the bolts are on. It's a very tricky job to get these bolts in, all of them really. But you've got your bolts down here, that one there, and then back here, right down the bottom, actually you can see where I've got the cloth still. I need to pull that off. That's a little trick to get the bolt to stay stuck onto the socket. But those bolts down there are quite hard to get to. So we're talking them to 20, and then these ones here at the exhaust to the oil feed are 20 plus 60 Newton meters. So we'll torque those up now, and then I'll move on to the fun job of connecting up all the exhaust parts again. So first, what I'd recommend is you do the little flanges there that come from the exhaust manifold. So there's 3 bolts, and then on the other side 3 bolts there. Then I'd suggest you reinstall the EGR pipe there that has the little clamp on it. And then once you've done that, and obviously you've got to bolt to the actual head as well. Sorry, I'm a shitty camera. Bolts to the back of the bank 2 head. Then finally we'll reattach our rear flange to the turbocharger, and then put our little lifting bracket back in there. So that'll be the easy fun part at the end. But yeah, so let's jump into it, team. This is the hardest part of the whole job. Let's continue. I might even do it off camera because it's just no point videoing it. I can't get a good enough camera view. What I might do is chuck this back in just so I can give myself something to lean on, but I also don't want to screw it up either. So anyway, let's go. Right team, so I've got some new parts here. An EGR seal, intake seals, I think that one there, and then this one here. So those are brand new, and I've also got a brand new, where'd it go? Brand new, and I should have replaced this a while ago and I haven't got around to it. A brand new turbo seal. Yeah, this one's well past its use by. It's a little bit worn out, so nice brand new one of those to go in, which is good. So we'll put that in soon when we clean it up. For now though, yeah, I'll replace those seals, finish cleaning up the EGR little sort of air-driven valve there before we then reinstall this back into the car. And hopefully I can reinstall it with that already installed on the bottom of the air chamber here. I don't see why not. Well, in saying that, see that hose there? That little flange, it might have to be installed separately. Not actually sure. Might do a test fit, and then that stuff goes back in there like that. But yeah, let's give it a quick clean up once we've done those other bits and pieces.
Start on April 2nd.
So team, the magnificent OM642 is back together. What a flippin' mongrel of a job that is. If you are planning to do it, good luck. It's not that bad. The worst part of the job, team, ultimately is just that turbo area. Pulling that turbo out, it's a effing pain in the ass. I really did not enjoy that. Putting it back in's easier. I found getting it out harder. Everything else has come back together really well. Our little something there, our cover's back on, coolant pipes are pressed in, make sure you check that. Our air pipe's back on there. This charge pipe's pressed onto that weird little plastic chamber thingy. All the connectors that I'm aware of are plugged in, including your little one here, make sure you don't miss that. Fuel filter, actuator, motor, our clamp for our expansion on the coolant thermostat's done. VAC's plugged back in. T-junctions on there on the evap line. I'm going to replace this because it's pretty badly cracked, but it's not critical, at least right now. Hoses are on, there's no cracks that are obvious. Everything's plugged in now. I've got a spare cable here, I just don't think it's used. We'll find out when we turn it on. Fuel rails are all tightened up, all our fuel filter clamps are back on and tightened up. So it's ready to start. I've left the cowling off just in case. I don't see any need to pull everything apart again, but yeah, that's the last thing that we'll put back together. We're going to give it a start up now, see how it runs. But before I do that, I'm going to have a little dinner, because if something goes wrong, I don't want to worry about it while I'm eating dinner. I'd rather deal with it afterwards. So yeah, let's continue. Right team, time to start her up. I'm pretty certain everything's all good. We do need to put some coolant in, but I'll wait just till we've at least heard the motor start. Might take a few seconds for the fuel system to prime, and I'm also just going to quickly check the ECU's got no obvious codes on it. That'll be the exhaust side output, it wouldn't be the... Okay, that's good. That sounded good. Yep. That sounds good, team. Let's give it another go. Right team, I think it's just taking a while for it to crank fuel pressure, just looking at the computer. And the fuel rail pressure is very low. There is fuel flow, which is good according to the computer. So it's just a matter of it kicking it off and going. So we'll give it another try now quickly. Make sure these are done up. And we should be good to go. Oops. Our belt's a little bit squeaky. I think it's alright though. Cool. Okay, well let's put it back together. I assume it's all good now. But we'll go for a quick drive after we've put it back together. Right team, I found the missing connectors home. There's a temperature sensor on the back of this inlet here, and that's where it wasn't plugged into. So don't forget that one. I was thinking, why have I got this error? But yeah, it was component here, B178, and I looked at the connector and it said brown and blue and white, green and white, and that's what the connector had on it. And then I thought, okay, so it must be around here somewhere, and surely enough we found it. So that's good to go now. We should have no more engine codes. So if we clear that sucker now, codes deleted, no system, no fault found. Just give it another start for the sake of it. I think we're good now team, I think we're all done. A little bit slow to kick off with the fuel pressure, but I think it just needs to get all the air out and it should be good. So we'll just keep pulling the coolant out, put our window cowling back in, and also put the under engine trays back on too. Don't want to forget that. Right team, so we've got the ML350 outside. Sorry, it's night time here. So yeah, it's dark. The camera's shit. But anyway, let's just swap cameras. So we've got the car running, it's idling smoothly. I actually started a while, about 20 minutes ago, and it ran really rough, and then all of a sudden it came nice again, so that's good. And also concerning, but it's good. I don't know if I've really got enough coolant in the car, so I'm not going to drive it too far. I just want to like feel that the engine's okay. Feels good to me. I'm just taking it up my driveway and back. But I need to put more coolant in it first before I drive it much more. So yeah, nah, it feels good to me. Feels good. yeah, what we'll do, team, is I'm going to go to bed. We'll take it for a drive in the morning once I've got the coolant for it. I just don't want to drive it too much right now with this sort of shitty weather and not enough coolant in it. I've taken probably about 3 litres out, 3.5, and I've put about 2 back in, so it's not enough actually. So I just want to make sure I don't drive the bloody thing too much and end up fucking it. Yeah, so we'll come back in the morning, team. We're already getting quite warm, so I don't want to drive it anymore. I'm just gonna switch her off and leave it at that. Anyway, let's come back to it this morning. Let's give it another start, team. And we'll just turn the AC on full blast hot, just to ensure the pump cycles coolant through the heater circuit. It's good. Right, team, so going for a drive with our face-mounted camera, so we're following the law. So basically we've gone for a drive and the engine's running well. You can see the temperature's staying at 60. For some, like, is anyone here a diesel expert on Mercedes and can explain why they sort of don't sit at 80 like the cars? I guess it's to do with the operating temperatures are different between diesel and petrol. But yeah, last night, as you just saw in the clip last night, we didn't have it fully topped up with coolant. It was already approaching 80, so obviously tells you not to drive without full coolant. Well, I thought we would have still had enough to keep it sort of running smoothly, but clearly it was maybe a little bit low. So I've put in, as you just saw, about 2.5 litres more, about 2 litres more. Pull over here. I've gotten rid of a lot of potholes here, which is good. Still got to do the brake pads on this car, rear brake pads. They're not too bad though, they'll be fine for a little bit longer. No fault codes on the engine, so that's good. Exhaust system. EGR. Interesting. So you saw we cleaned out a lot of the EGR components, and we also cleaned out the intake ports. Smells a little bit oily, but that's fine. That's why I always bring a fire extinguisher just in case. But yeah, so now that's all good. Everything seems to be running well. I was checking through these earlier, kickdown recognition. Definitely don't need to worry about that right now. And all the sensors are coming through now as well, which is good. So we know everything's running okay. Anyway, team, I'm going to put that down as a successful project. I really disliked it. I'd hate to do it again. If you're doing it yourself, good luck. You don't need a lot of special tools or anything, which is good. It's simple tooling. It's just a bastard of a job. Primarily the turbo. So get that sorted and you'll be all right. I guess getting to the halfway point's the trickiest part. Once you're on the back foot, once you've done that sort of halfway step and you've cleaned up all the intakes and put your new seals in and cleaned the V in between the engine, then it's sort of a easy ride home from there. It's definitely quicker putting it back together than it is pulling it apart. Again, if I did it now, I'd do it a lot quicker. So if you're going to do it on more than just one car, it's a good muscle memory to get. But yeah. Anyway, folks, hope you enjoyed that video. Like and subscribe. I'll try and post some more soon about some other cars that I've got as well. Cheers.